And a very good morning to you. It's John Fradgley from the Bell Legal Group, back with you for the final program of The Law and You for 2019. So if you have a question or a query that's eating away at you and you really need an answer before the year is out, you need to give us a call today. 55208888 is our number. It's 55208888. South of the Tweed River, of course, you need to put 07 in front of that number. And just a reminder that The Law and You will recommence on Tuesday, the 14th of January in the new year. So that's 14 January, Tuesday, the 14th of January, 2020. But we have someone who's very quick out of the blocks this morning, as we say a very good morning to George. G'day, George. How are you going?
Oh, hello, John.
How can I help?
John, I've currently got a will with the public trustee, and have had so for many years. I'm just wondering if I decide to change and go, and have it drawn out by a private solicitor. Do you need to let them know that you're going to do that?
No, you don't need to let them know that you're going to do that, but when you go and make your new will with a solicitor, they will normally get you to fill out an authority to release documents, and they will send that to the public trustee to advise the public trustee you've made a new will and ask the public trustee to hand over any will that they're presently holding so that all of your testamentary instruments can be held together. So if you're intending to do that, you would be well advised to ask your solicitor if they can get your old will or wills from the public trustee so that everything is kept in the one place. Because the reason why it's important is that if there's ever a challenge to your will, to your current will, often your old wills provide useful evidence as to what your thinking patterns have been over many years, and for that reason it is quite important that a copy of those is available if at all possible.
John, the reason I'm having second thoughts about keeping it with the public trustee is I wanted to know your comments on a recent program on TV where they featured the public trustee, and not one kind word was said about them. There was a lot of disappointed people there, some in tears, and I've heard. I know we've always hear the bad news and not the good news.
Yes,
but I hear it so often, and I've also heard you praise the public trustee in the past. So, what do you?
Well,
do you have any
look,
comments?
I think if I had anything to say about the public trustee, I mean, they certainly provide a valuable service. There's no question about that. I think the observation that I would make, and the comment that's come to me from many people who've come to our firm following dealings with the public trustee, is that very often you don't get to deal with the same person all the way through. So, for example, making a will is obviously a little bit different because that happens in a very short time frame. So the chances of you having another person at the public trustee look after your will after you've given your instructions is quite remote. But the area where I've had comments made to me is in relation to the estate administration, and often it's that they've been through a number of sets of hands as the estate is administered, and that has led to delay. And these are purely comments that people have made. They're not. I mean, it's purely hearsay from my perspective because I've never dealt with the public trustee in terms of the administration of an estate. But that seems to be the main thing, is that quite often they go through a number of hands. You don't know sometimes who you're dealing with. You might have been dealing with one officer, and then the next time that you get in touch, it's someone else. So they're the sorts of things that I've heard over the years, George.
But wouldn't they have to, John? I mean, dealing with different people in a company, if the company is dealing in unscrupulous practices, then it's sort of like once once there's a bit of rot in the apple, it goes right through, doesn't it? I mean,
well, I certainly don't think that the public trustee deal in unscrupulous practices. So let's be clear on that. But I think that what can happen is that the public trust office is a huge organisation. It has hundreds, perhaps thousands of employees, and so if you have a few employees who show indifference to their clients, then often that will taint the whole organisation, and sometimes unfairly. So the trouble is that, you don't know who you're going to be dealing with in those larger organisations, and that's, I think, where a lot of the difficulty arises. I mean, just as an analogy, I was talking to a friend last week, and we were talking about the problems in the church at the moment, and the Roman Catholic Church in particular, and what we were basically saying is that the tens of thousands of good priests and nuns who have been tainted by the actions of what over the whole organisation is a comparatively small number. But I suppose the big difference in the church is that has been made all the worse by the fact that people in senior management positions or senior roles within the church in the past have seen fit to not to bring these things out into the light and refer people to the police. So big organisations quite often have problems with how they're managed, and control is sometimes a big issue. So that's probably about the best I could put to it, I think, George.
Okay, John, thanks very much for your advice. Much appreciated, and thanks very much for your help. I look forward to listening to your shows in the new year. Thanks very much.
Well, thanks very much for that, George, and all the very best to you and yours for a blessed Christmas and a happy New Year.
Yeah, thanks very much, John.
All the best. Mate. Bye now. The time on 4CRB, just coming up to 13 minutes past 9. That's, of course, 13 minutes past 10 south of the Tweed. The Law and You is the program. 55208888 is the number. This is the last program for the year. So please, if you have a question or a query, could you get on that telephone straight away? 55208888. I'd prefer it if you don't leave it to the last few minutes of the program. If you have a question or a query, get to that telephone now. 55208888. I had written down a few notes for this week, as it is the last program of the year, and I wanted to finish on with just a few words of caution, and also I think some words of reassurance as well. The one thing that I have been reading a lot of recently, and I have reported on this or mentioned this in previous programs, is the obvious strong activity of the Australian Consumer Commission in relation to actions that they're taking against errant companies, etc. And one that I read of recently was a fine that was imposed on Optus for misleading its customers of about 6.4 million. We're all aware of the other ones involving banks, etc. But the one that was close to home that came out recently was that Coles has been ordered to pay $5.25 million to Norco. And of course, many of you would know that Norco is the farmers cooperative based in northern New South Wales. And I know that we, as a matter of principle, always buy Norco milk whenever we're shopping for products, because we want to support an organisation where we know the money actually gets to the farmers. But what this was all about was that Coles had been advertising, of course, that 10 cent a litre lift, I think, in pricing to go to the farmers, and apparently for some reason it hadn't been passed on to Norco. So it was very good to hear that the Norco Norco cooperative, and hopefully that means the farmers who supply milk to Norco will receive a little bit of a Christmas bonus if that money gets paid from Coles early enough. The other thing too, of course, to be very aware of are phishing scams. And I'm not talking about whiting or brim. I'm talking about phishing scams. And these are becoming more and more sophisticated. Just in this last week, I received an email from Google purporting to ask me to do something in relation to an iCloud account, which I don't have, and the email just looks so authentic, and I have no doubt that if I'd clicked on the link that they were asking me to click on, who knows what sort of havoc could have been unleashed on my computer. And of course many of us have seen the ones that have come through from the banks as well, where you get these emails and even text messages which appear to be from your bank, but when you look carefully at them, really aren't. And one of the things that you can do when you get one of these suspect emails, one of the first things is to just put your the cursor from your computer onto the email address it's come from, right at the very top. So where it says, it's come from google.com or whatever, if you just put the cursor on that, it will often give you the correct email address underneath it. And you need to even be very careful with those, because the one the other day, for example, from Google, at first blush looked like it was actually from Google, but when you looked at it and you looked at Google's website, it was quite clear that it wasn't. So just be very careful. What they're after is either to infect your computer with a virus or alternatively to steal your passwords so that they can access bank accounts and all sorts of things. So be very careful with that, won't you? Particularly over this Christmas period, particularly with the amount of online shopping people are now doing. It's just opening the floodgates for these things. But enough of that. We have another caller online. As we say, a very good morning to James. G'day, James. How are you today?
Oh, good, John.
That's good. How can we help?
I own a relocatable. I live in a relocatable home.
Yep.
With my brother. My brother's not that good, and I'm just wondering how I go with probate. Do I have to pay probate? His will's all over to me. Do I have to pay probate on the house?
Right. So is it in your joint names?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it will automatically go to you, James, on the passing of your brother. So all that you really should need to do is to produce a copy of the death certificate to the relocatable home park operator, and the property will be transferred into your name. Does your brother have a will?
Yeah.
Okay, and does that leave his estate to you?
Everything to me, yeah.
Yep. Okay. So look, in those circumstances, there is no, when we talk about probate, James, all we're talking about is a process of proving a will in circumstances where it needs to be proved. So, and normally those circumstances are if your brother was in a nursing home and had paid a residential accommodation deposit, or he had more than $50,000 in the bank, or he had shares in publicly listed companies, then you may need to get probate of his will. And $50,000 in the bank is just a rough rule of thumb. But if his assets are modest, if he simply owns that relocatable home with you as joint tenants, and he doesn't have any substantial funds in the bank, then there shouldn't be any problem at all, and there should be no need for you to obtain probate of his will.
Yeah, I went to the managers yesterday, and she said as soon as he passes on, can do without a new tenant agreement out in my name.
Yes.
And
yep.
as soon as he passes on.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So that's all that will happen, and there will certainly be no duty, no stamp duty or anything for you to pay in relation to that. And that old agreement will be replaced by the new agreement, which effectively provides that you're now the owner of the property.
Right. Thank you very much, John.
Okay then, James, and all the very best for Christmas.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Bye now. Time on 4CRB just coming up to 20 minutes past 9 past 10 on the Tweed, and we say a very good morning to Tricia. G'day, Tricia. How are you today?
Hello, it's Tricia here.
Yes, Tricia. How can we help?
You touched on something with emails just a moment ago before that last caller.
Yep.
And I had a thing very similar, and it wanted me to upgrade and change my password. Well, I must admit I'm a little bit technology challenged. And I couldn't do it because I couldn't find my original password to start with to change it. Anyway, I said something to my son, who's quite tech-savvy, and he said, Mum, it's a con job. Anyway, in the meantime, I've got another one from Yahoo wanting me to link onto a thing and do something.
Yep.
And being technically challenged, I haven't done it, but they're telling me that time's running out.
Yep.
But I'm like, well, probably you're aware of these things. But for the older people who are technically challenged, sometimes that's a good thing.
It can be a good thing. The best thing you can do with those sorts of emails, Tricia, to be honest, is just click delete immediately.
Right, I haven't opened, well, it comes up, but I haven't touched any of the links to open it
so I would recommend that you just delete it. And if it is anyone you deal with and you think that it might be legitimate, don't even reply to the email. Just ring them if you can to ask them if they've sent that email to you, or alternatively, go to their website and send them an email from your, not replying to the email you've received. Send a brand new email off the email address from their genuine website and ask them whether that email was sent to you. And look, I, like you, Tricia, I'm a troglodyte when it comes to computers, so I'm challenged with these things. But I mean, the ideal thing would be to do a screenshot of what you've received and then send that to them and say, is this a genuine email from you?
Right, okay. Then I just think when they give me a date that it had to be done by, and I thought, well, too late, I've missed the date now anyway, it was the 14th.
Yep.
But I just thought it would be easy to be conned, and if it wasn't that I didn't know the original password or couldn't find it,
yes.
And my son said, no, Mum, that's a con job.
Oh, look, it is so easy. It is so easy for people to be taken in by these things. I mean, I think twice about them when I see them myself. And I know all about these scams that are going around. But I look at it and you read it and you think, oh, well, that looks pretty logical. I wonder what this is all about. But then when you really think about it and you think, well, I don't really have any dealings with that company, or if it's from a bank, the one thing I've noticed with a lot of the bank emails, and I believe a lot of them emanate from Eastern Europe, is there's often spelling errors in the text of the message you receive, and I mean that's a dead giveaway that it's not a genuine message, because rarely would you ever get a message from the bank that has a spelling mistake or worse still, bad grammar.
I think even though I think I'm fairly up with some things, but I don't do internet banking. I can check on one of my bank accounts with Heritage, but I don't actually transact. And I think sometimes that's a good thing. Yes, I think it can be, that's for sure, Tricia. Thank you for your help and all your advice through the year. No trouble at all, and all the very best for Christmas and the New Year. Thanks kindly. Bye-bye. Bye now. Time on 4CRB, coming up to 24 minutes past 9 past 10 on the Tweed, and we say a very good morning to Michael. G'day, Michael. How are you today? Hello. Yes, Michael, how can we help? Yeah. My wife's in a home. She has dementia, and the two wills, we both made a will out each, giving everything to, each other if one died. But she, now she's, her brain's not functioning properly. And I just wondered, we got 4 children, 4 boys and 1 girl. Yep. Should I make one of them in place of my wife? Sorry, what was that again, Michael? I just missed that last bit. You've got 4 children. Should I make one of the children executor in place of my wife? Yes. Well, look, obviously, if she has dementia, she will not be able to act as executor of your will. No. So I would suggest discussing it with your children and just working out
whether one or more of them should be a replacement executor, or how many of them should be. You can actually appoint up to 4 executors, so you legally could appoint all 4 children to be executors if you wished. The other thing too, of course, is that your wife can't make a new will, so you would remain the executor of her will.
Yeah. See, we've already made 2 of the children executors of these wills that we made.
Oh, so are they alternate executors?
Yeah, they're executors of the existing wills.
Right. So do the wills say something like this, Michael? For example, your will says, I appoint my wife executor and I give my whole estate to my wife, but if she fails to survive me or is unable or unwilling to act as executor, then I appoint my children?
Yeah.
Is it something like that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, look, that's probably okay. Might be an idea just to make sure that the wording covers your situation. So what part of the Gold Coast do you live, Michael? Which area?
I live at Tweed Heads.
Tweed Heads, okay. Well, look, at Coolangatta, the Gold Coast Community Legal Centre and Advice Bureau come down and hold sessions at the Coolangatta Courthouse. So you could go over to their office, or you could go over there when they're there and just show them your will and your wife's will and just ask them that question, that the way you've got it set up, because your wife now has dementia, that the children will be able to act in that capacity without you doing anything further. Yeah. So have you got a pen handy, Michael?
Yeah.
Okay, so their phone number is 5532
5532
9611.
9611.
Yeah, so you're on the north side of the Tweed River?
I live at Pickabeen Road, which is...
Oh, yes, I know Pickabeen Road. Well, you better take the area code 07, just in case you need to put that in front of the phone number. So give them a call and find out when they visit the Coolangatta Courthouse, and just you can pick a day and a time that's convenient to you, and pop in there and see them and just have them look over the will for you.
Yeah, and what's their title?
The name of the organisation is Gold Coast Community Legal Centre and Advice Bureau.
Okay.
So they provide free legal advice, and they would look over the will for you and just check that and make sure that it's all in order.
Yeah, all right. Thanks very much for that,
okay,
John.
then, Michael. All the very best, and all the very best for Christmas.
Thank you, and you.
Thank you. Time on 4CRB is just coming up to 29.5 minutes past 9. We probably don't have time for any more calls today, unfortunately, so we'll probably just need to leave it there. There was one other thing I was going to mention about Christmas, and there are two aspects to this. And of course, one is that we should never forget the reason for the season. So I hope that you'll bear that in mind. But one of the other things about Christmas is the importance of giving. And at the moment, there are so many people in need out in our community, those who've suffered from bushfires, those who've suffered through drought. So just bear a thought for those less fortunate than you are in the lead up to Christmas. And if you do get the opportunity to and have a little bit of spare money that you can donate, then think about doing that and the joy that it'll bring not only to you in giving, but also the joy that it will bring to those who will be suffering through this time. It's certainly not going to be quite the joyous Christmas for those who've been ravished by the bushfires or the drought. The other thing too in the new year is if you don't get a Christmas card from that relative or you don't get a present or a call, don't automatically get highly offended and think, well, I'm going to change my will. It's amazing how immediately after Christmas we get a number of calls from people wanting to change their wills because they've been offended by someone over the Christmas break. Remember that it is far better to forgive. And so try and perhaps look at life through the eyes of the person who's offended you as to why that may have happened, and seek out a little forgiveness in your heart rather than looking for an immediate and reaction to some perceived offence that you may have received. I'm John Fradgley from the Bell Legal Group. A very happy and holy Christmas to you all. Until the 14th of January, it's goodbye and God bless.